You know what's funny? I think I figured out what happened the other day because Archie just did this, and it was just like the stream just gave me a fucking StreamYard error. And what I noticed was that happened literally the other day, and it was with somebody with keys that was probably on a mobile phone and just fucking flicked it off. I've done this before, and it literally just happened when Archie left. So I have no idea if he just nuked the stream or if the fucking StreamYard thing was having some kind of an error, but I think Archie nuked the stream here, guys. But GD says, fuck this, fuck die. But all good, man. I'm going to keep it going. I'm sure people are going to find us on this stream again. No worries, man. No worries. But we'll see how it goes. I don't know, man. StreamYard's been doing some weird shit, but I have a feeling AC3. AC3 fucked it up. What's going on, Grant? How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Good. I'm sorry that the Pontiff popped off. I think he ended the stream when he left. Like, fucking noob move, man. This fucking guy.
Yeah, it's all right. No problem.
How's everything with you, Grant? What's new?
No, it's good, mate. I got a hoarse fucking voice because I've been teaching too much, and the kids. Let me tell you about the kids. My God.
Tell me about the kids. Tell me.
Oh, they don't bloody listen, and they don't stop talking. I said, remember your parents? They're paying me good money to teach you English. So shut up and listen. I know it's not nice. And one kid says, oh, it's scary. I said, I don't care. If you're not good with me, I won't be good with you.
There you go, man. There you go. We got GD.
There you go.
20 Argentinian pesos. He says Monkey hacked the stream, Dan. I don't think Mookie would do that. And Tommy's asking Grant if you are the calm HR. So for those that don't know, Grant is an old friend of Archie's. Has met up with Lux and Archie in Bangkok. So he's an old friend of Archie's.
Yeah, I'm an old friend of Archie, and I met up with him in the Bangers. Yeah, and the funny thing is, Tan, because every school, if it's a private school or if it's a public school, they all have a picture of Ho Chi Minh in the classroom, but no.
Ooh, I think your phone cut out there, Grant. This is another thing about Grant, guys. His phone somehow cuts out every once in a while. So I'm here to be a little bit of filler.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, you got a class of, over 40 kids. And I said to them, I am not Superman. I am not. So you got to be quiet and listen. And if it gets really out of control, I point up to the picture which is in the room, which is of Ho Chi Minh. I said, now continue on and look at his face. Come on, let's hear it. They all shut up.
Grant, these kids, I'm sure they're excited to learn English, man, from an Australian who knows English extremely well. So, you know what? They're just kids.
Well,
man.
I do.
We'll give them a bit of a break.
I do what I can, but I think about the parents.
Well, you do have some love in the chat. Marcus Mandel says he loves this Australian. I don't know if he means derelict. I think maybe dialect. Maybe he likes your Australian. Because you're originally from, what, Melbourne there, Grant? Or you're from Melbourne? You're from...
Yes.
Melbourne.
Okay.
Nice. A lot of supporters from Melbourne here. Angelic Slayer, Jake the Yuppie, many others. I think Madman maybe from Melbourne. So a lot of Melbourne support here.
Yep.
So Archie was talking about a little bit of a Queensland Melbourne or Queensland Victoria rivalry when Angelic was calling him the a bunch of like bogan and all this stuff. It was a really interesting I don't know if you had a chance to hear Angelic's manifesto, but it was pretty it's pretty good. I thought it was well done. I thought it was well done. The manifesto. All you can do is try your best. From P. Clan, another fellow Australian. And Dirk says he didn't mean derelict. There you go.
Okay. But it's good that you jump on and that you're. I like to listen about the watches and that. I mean, I'm a watch enthusiast, but I can't compare to you or to Arch. But I do. I do like a good sort of watch, and
Okay, well,
you
let's
know,
maybe we get back into it. So I was talking about I'm looking to buy potentially a chronograph, and Archie came on. He says get the Patek Philippe. This is the one that JJ owned, the 5172. Now the reason I'm not looking at this one, Grant, is because the syringe hands, the Arabic numerals is very similar to my perpetual calendar, so it would just be a little too similar for me. I'm going to show you the one that I'm looking at. 5170G Black Brigade Brigade numerals. Archie called it out right away. He knows I like this watch, and I've been talking about this watch forever. I'm going to pull up a photo for you, Grant. You can give me your take on what you think. I don't want the white dial. I want the black dial. Let me find one with the black dial. Um, because there's a few with the white dial. Fuck, there's no good photos, man. Okay, let's pull up this one on monochrome. So you can see here, black dial, very simple, brigade numerals, just a very uh, classic chronograph. And for me,
oh, nice.
yeah,
No,
just
no,
simple,
that's
right?
cool. Yes, yes, that is that's a classic. Like, you know, yeah, you could wear that. Look, I could say that you could wear that anywhere, but you wouldn't. But in any function, you could wear that.
Oh, of course, you could change the strap, make it a bit more casual. It doesn't have to be like your black leather strap. It could be something a bit more casual, and just change up the look. I mean, it's the black dial, so it's going to be somewhat versatile in that sense. Billie Jean's
It's
is
it's just it's it's extremely sort of yeah. No, that's a cool. No, that's a cool piece.
Billie Jeans is asking, why not a Daytona? So Billie Jeans, I've said this many times on the streams. I'm not a chronograph is probably my least favorite complication. The only chronograph I usually keep in my collection is the Speedmaster, just because I like that watch. I'm not a big chronograph guy, so I just was like, you know what? I got the perpetual calendar. I've got the world time. I've got basic Calatrava. I've got weekly. I'm like, the chronograph's kind of one of the complications I'm missing from the Patek collection. So I've been debating this, and then obviously the data graph came up, and I told that horror story, Grant, around like there's so many, like you can Google these, you can find these on YouTube. There's so many horror stories of like langes that have been either serviced improperly or fucked up, and it just
Mm,
scares the shit out of me. Like, especially if I'm looking for
yeah,
a gen one, like an early data graph that it's like either there's no service history, because Grant, like these langes were like selling for pennies on the dollar in the secondary market back in the day. Like they were cheap. And so typically when the watches are cheap, people don't always take care of them that well. And who knows, it could be gone, a dozen years plus, being abused and whatnot. So I'm just a little skeptical around the Lange stuff. Whereas Patek
mhm,
was always a premium. It was always very expensive. So if you're already going to spend 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand on
yeah,
many of their watches, the chances of them getting serviced and being taken care of are probably a lot higher than a time when Lange was selling at deep discounts. You could get fucking Lange ones in the teens, you know. Lange ones are like 20s, 30s now, right? Like, so if you're
mm,
buying one that's old that someone had in the teens, like, did that person really care of that watch? I don't know. There's tons of horror stories out
yeah,
there. I'm not
yeah,
making
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
making this shit up. So, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I respect Lange, but yeah, I mean, and look, I talked to Higgins about this, and Higgins agreed with me. He's like, yeah, Dan, like it's a very viable, reason to be worried. And Higgins himself has seen stuff that's been fucked up. So, it is what it is. But yeah, Van Lux, I wasn't gonna not. Archie said, "Oh, there's no show today. There's no show." I'm like, "Look, man, I'm sure some of us could hop on, and do a bit of talking, right?"
and
Yeah,
and also just to get back in to your point about the servicing costs. I mean, a person that buys a watch of that sort of caliber, and they're not concerned about the servicing costs, because they want to look after it. So
yeah, it's like kind of like buying a supercar, Grant, and not knowing service
yes,
history, like not knowing, how is the service up to date? Do I got to do a major service? Like, what is it, right? It's more about that than it is anything, because it's like I have to then search for the right data graph, which may not be easy in the country I'm in. And then I got to find one with good provenance or look up. Now, look,
yeah, yeah,
fortunately, Grant, I have friends that, have connections at Lange who could probably look up service history for me in advance. So I'm a bit more fortunate than most people. But for the average collector, like, Lange can be a minefield when it comes to older watches. Just be very careful of like, understanding the provenance. Has it been serviced? And have it looked at, guys, because I've seen, Langes that have been at ADs that have come in just, some of these ADs don't send them to Lange. Like, there's stories on YouTube of like AD sending them to like third party watchmakers and fucking it up and then sending it to Lange, and Lange is like, yo, like, you sent this to a third party. Why the fuck? We're not warranting this. You know what I mean? So just be very careful with Lange on the secondary market. Talking of, oh yes, Danny, sorry man, my bad. I had it queued up. So Grant, I talked earlier about Patek Philippe, saying that, and hopefully Russ is still listening from the UK, saying that their 30-meter water-resistant watches can now go in water. Now, Danny sent me a photo of a 5711. I think this is a buddy of his watch. Said he took it into water, and this is the damage it got. Now, this watch is rated over 100 meters. It's supposed to be rated over 100 meters. And even like a sub, right? Even if the sub, some of the seals are not great. Like, the sub,
well, you got to be careful.
Yeah, yeah. Here it's like fucking bad, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
You got to test it before you put it into water. If you're buying, on the secondary market, you got to test it first.
And I think this is a big problem, right? When people buy vintage watches or they buy neo vintage watches. I have a friend who bought one. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who bought a Submariner. I think it was like a 16610, so pre-ceramic Submariner, from David SW. And the first thing he asked me was, Tan, what should I do? Like, what should I do with this? I said, look, man, first thing you should, I know it's authentic because it's come from David SW, but what I'd recommend is just get it pressure tested. Just check it out so that like you're comfortable, like washing your hands, like, you may want to go in the pool, like it'd be fine. It's a Submariner, right? He took it to a local watchmaker of mine, friend of mine who used to work at RSC in Toronto. And my buddy said he looked it up and it was failing water resistance pressure testing. And he opened the watch up and he noticed that there was a small dent in the case that had been kind of like polished down to like maybe either just it was not really well fixed. So that was what was causing the failure of water pressure. Now, David SW was good, right? He, my friend called David SW. David SW said, hey man, like, our bad, no worries. You have multiple options. We can give you your money back and we'll take the watch back, or you can service it at Rolex and we'll pay for it and we'll pay for the recasing and everything. Or you could service it at a local watchmaker, whatever you want, right? They were pretty good about it. Honestly, Van Lux, it wasn't that much money. I don't know how much. I think he might even do it for free because he's a friend of mine, but it's not that much money. And they could do it on the spot for you if you go to an AD. So yeah, like, he immediately, failed. And David SW, like, he honored the deal, but it kind of gave a bad taste in my friend's mouth about buying neo vintage and vintage watches, because he's like, fuck. He's like, I didn't know this. I had to ask you. And, I would have fucked this watch up, like similar to look at the one Danny sent me here. Like, so I don't know, man. You got to be careful. You got to know your shit sometimes when it comes to wristwatches.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But that's why, Grant, I really do. I call a lot of YouTubers out for spruiking, like, misinformation, or what I call groupthink. Just saying things like, oh, dress watches are dead, or all this other stuff, because people listen to these streams. Like, people who don't have a lot of knowledge, they listen to these, and they absorb some of this knowledge, and then they apply it in their collecting, and it's dangerous, right? It's dangerous to say shit like that, because you're going to bias people that probably may not have been biased in the first place. And I'm a prime example of it. When I first bought my first Patek Philippe, Grant, like, I asked the community, I asked forums, like, hey, what should I get? And everyone's like, Nautilus. I'm like, what about an Aquanaut? No, it's the poor man's Nautilus. Get the Nautilus, right? Like, it just drove me to buy the Nautilus because I didn't know, Grant, I own that watch, and I was like, this watch ain't even that good. Like, I got and I sold it. And I bought other Patek Philippe's that I found more interesting, that most people don't think are good watches or hype watches. But I
can tell that you got the passion in your voice, and that's good to hear. You're a true sort of enthusiast, aren't you? And you love your watches, and that's what people, like to listen to. And you can rattle off, a lot of information, which a lot of, like an everyday sort of Joe doesn't have. And that's, really important.
Yeah, I think it's when I always watch YouTube, I try to watch it for, try to learn something new every day, right? Like, whether it's watches I'm interested in or watches I'm not interested in, right? Because maybe I may be interested in them later. And I've made so many mistakes, Grant, over my time, just dismissing certain watches like the Reverso or the Hulk or the Royal Oak, right? Watches that I hated in photos, but when I
Yes.
saw them in person or I tried them on, I was like, fuck, I love these watches, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yes.
I always
Yes.
tell
Yeah.
people, like, take everything with a grain of salt. Don't take my word for it. Don't
Yeah.
take other people's word for it. Try them on yourself.
Yeah.
Experience them yourself. If you're worried about losing money, it may not be the piece for you. You really got to go into it, you know, because Grant, like back in the day, it was never about making money. It was
Mm.
always about keeping your money. And I
Yeah.
said this yesterday on the stream. I said there used to be a I don't know, Grant, if you remember from back in the day, Archie used to have a sponsor that he used to do on his videos called Jewelers on Time.
No, I know it, and you'll keep having your $10,000.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. He
Yes.
would say you would it was yeah, he's like
Yes.
putting your money in the safety deposit box, you'll still have your
Yes.
money, you know, down the track. That was what it was about. That's what value retention was just buying on a
Yeah.
good price on the secondary and not losing money. That's what now it's become about like, well, I only buy watches that are appreciating
Yeah.
you know, from retail. You know, there's this whole consortium of YouTubers that you know, spruik, well, you got to have a relationship with your AD. I think that's the biggest fucking scam out there. Is you
Oh,
know,
really?
yeah, it's like having like the way the ADs are running today, making you go through a bunch of hoops just to you know get the honor to buy a watch at retail. Like to me, I think that's the biggest fucking scam out there. I don't play that game. You know, if the
Yeah.
watch is selling for double retail, to me, you know, because Grant, a lot of people look at it like in a very personal way. Oh, I paid over retail. It's the greatest sin of life, you know, is to pay over
Yeah.
retail. But the way I see it is that's just the market price. You know,
Mm.
like market price is
Mm.
dictated by supply and demand. The MSRP just means manufacturer's suggested retail price. That's
Yeah.
suggested. That doesn't mean that's the fucking real price of a Daytona. You know, Daytona's real
Yeah.
price is
Because,
not the retail
like,
price.
if the AD wants you to buy, the hot sort of piece, okay, you got to prove yourself, and you got to buy the underlings first.
I'm gonna read this
So,
comment from Archie. Archie's been around a long time, and I appreciate this comment. He says, "I bought an AP from European watch company. Brought it to AP for servicing, and they showed me tons of scratches on the movement. I had to, yeah, like Archie, this is not uncommon for a lot of brands. Just because certain watches, you know, people just don't. Even Archie is guilty of this, of taking you know certain brand watches like Patek Philippe and taking them to third parties that fuck it up. There's a video if you go back in his channel of his AP Royal Oak. He did this, and the Royal Oak. If you look at the Royal Oak, the screws were all fucked up when he took delivery of it, and then he sent it to the watchmaker, and the watchmaker sent it back with the screws fucked up. And I'm just like, do you not like know how AP Royal Oaks work? Like, it's just I don't know.
yeah.
It's something you got to watch out for, guys. It's something to be very
No,
very careful about.
you see, when Old Easy makes an investment, I have to go in a behind the scenes to watch them sort of do everything. No, I don't trust them.
Yeah,
Particularly here in Asia, like no, no, I got to go behind the scenes, and I have to watch them. Yeah.
yeah. Even like look, Asia's a great example, right? Like Archie, you know, he took his world time for service in Hong Kong, and
Mm.
you know,
No, I wouldn't trust that.
well,
No.
At Patek Philippe, Grant, not at like a
Oh,
regular.
okay, okay.
Yeah, he took it to the service center, and not only that. So get this, the watch returned with a rooted rotor. His rotor was fucked. I don't know if you remember that back in the day, the rooted rotor stick that he was running.
The rooted rotor. Yeah,
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 but that was
yeah,
done by Patek Philippe. They fucked it up. Then he had to go back to sing it to Hong Kong to pick it up later. You know, so even the best of brands, they fuck it up. But yeah, just be very careful, guys, as you're buying certain brands on the secondary, especially like watches that may have dodgy service history, or you don't know the provenance, especially with high end stuff, because you could be footing a massive bill,
yeah,
and you don't really want to be footing that bill if you buy the right piece, right? So.
yeah.
Got a super chat from Australia here, Grant. Madman, $5 Australian. Isn't the rotor 21 or 22 karat gold as per Patek's website? If so, why is it corroding so much in this pic? I get the movement corroding, but the rotor, yeah, I think this rotor on, he's talking about Danny's one, is I believe 21 karat rotor, I believe, and definitely corroded. I'm just gonna pull up the picture here again. So
Mm,
this is a 21 karat rotor. On the big rotor, I think it's 21. I think on the smaller, the micro rotor, I believe it's 22.
Look
Because
at that. I mean, I mean, if you made that screen sort of fucking smaller, you would think you're looking at an art piece or something. Good God. Like,
So,
yeah.
so Van Lux, this is one of Danny's friends' watches. We were talking about earlier. Russell 996 sent me from the latest Patek Philippe magazine. Patek is talking about their water resistance, and they're talking about 30 meters water resistance being just fine for diving. Now, Danny disagrees, and Danny's like, "Yo, my boy has a 5711, took it in the water, and this is what happened." So, you know, again, everything with a grain of salt, guys. Be very conscious.
Yeah.
Be smart with your watches. And yeah, just be really really careful. KR at 10. Thing is, I worked with an independent watchmaker in San Jose who actually showed me invoices he sent to local Rolex AD scandals. Yeah, I mean, look, I think in certain cases, KR, like my local AD, they don't always send everything to RSC. Like I know the watchmaker there, because I had a 1680 red sub, a vintage Submariner, and I was inquiring about servicing, and I was like, well, I'm a little concerned with sending it to Rolex because I don't want them to swap the dial, and the local watchmaker is like,
Change
look,
the hands. Yeah.
yeah, or anything, right? It was a very clean vintage model. And the watchmaker said, "Look, like if you really care, like I will do the service for you. Like I can figure it out. But who knows, right? He could have fucking sent it to somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
right? So it's just, yeah, you gotta be really fucking careful,
Mm,
with that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
back to monochrome. We have the Roaring Tiger version of the Zenith Defy Extreme Jungle. Grant, is this your cup of tea, or is this just off the rails ridiculous? Like I don't know.
I just don't like the green. But that's me. I can appreciate it. But I just don't like the green on the face. No,
Now,
no, no.
I wouldn't say this watch is too big for this person, but it's getting there, and
Yeah.
it's a
I
bit.
mean,
Yeah, it's getting there, man.
yeah, yeah. But if you look at the strap, it doesn't fit in properly.
No, and this is a photo that they're showing in Monochrome magazine, right? Like it's not really the most flattering photo of the
Mm,
watch, and again, right, aesthetically, the colorway is a little off. Not a big fan personally of the Zenith brand myself. The only really thing I like about Zenith is their history with the Daytona. The El Primero history I question very much because I owned a Seiko speed timer that was produced in March 1969, which is an automatic chronograph, which was released in production before the El Primero was even shown at Basel. So, I mean, not the biggest Zenith fan on my side. I know Archie's a big fan of Zenith, but that's the case. Anthony Martinez, if you like that Zenith, then it's safe to assume you like AP's Cause collab. Meh. I agree with you, Anthony. I'm not a big fan of the Cause collab. I don't know if you know what that one is, Grant. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. If Audemars Piguet is gonna have it on their website because that was a pretty new collab. They just did it. So let's pull up AP's website. Let's see what these fuckers are doing over there. Oh yeah, here we go. Right here, right on the screen, you got the Cause collaboration, Grant. So
yeah.
Cause the artist has his own collaboration. I think there's a jumbo, and I think that there's like either an offshore. I'm assuming it's an offshore that has the Cause kind of not colorway, but just design the little X's that you see on the eyes, like
Mm,
So again, AP has been doing a lot of weird collabs. They did it with like Marvel, and I mean, for me, I mean, honestly, Grant, I don't know who the fuck they're trying to attract with these watches. Like, you know,
mm, mm.
I remember a time when Damien Hirst, who's also another famous artist, did a collab with Swatch, and he came out with a watch called the Swatch Spot Mickey. I'm gonna pull it up here for you guys. The mirror, not the mirror. There's two watches. There's the mirror Spot Mickey and then the Spot Mickey. I'm gonna show you guys both of those watches. There's some Hodinkee article from God knows how many years ago was this. This was in 2018 when this came out, so I'm dating myself a little bit old
Okay.
here. So
Okay.
this was the Swatch. This was both the Spot Mickey on the left. This was the more rare one, and then you had the mirror Spot Mickey on the right. The design of Mickey was done by a famous artist called Damien Hirst. So when this released, I was on Archie's live stream actually the night this was releasing. I was on with
Yeah.
Jin, and Jin was the one who was super excited about this and said, "Yo, are you gonna stay up? It's at like 1 a.m." And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And I ended up staying up anyways. Jin got drunk and fell asleep. So
Okay.
when I
Jin
was
is your mate,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
you and him used to get on, with Archie, because he's your Well, he was your right hand, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know, if I saw tan, I saw gin.
yeah, the show was called Gin and Tonic, right? So Gin and
Yeah,
Tonic,
yeah, yeah,
whatever was
yeah.
was Gin and I. Um, and so he was very much about this because he liked the artist. And so Mikey says one of my mates at the Diamond Skulls Damien Hirst Commission. Very cool, man. That's really nice. I didn't know that. So what I noticed was the Swatch site immediately crashed. Okay, when this happened, this collab happened, and I remember going on Facebook to Swatch Canada. I was messaging them, and I was watching Twitter, and this is at like fucking 2 in the morning,
Mm,
and a
mm.
lot of it was not just watch collectors but art collectors that were that were trying to pick up this Damien Hirst piece. They didn't give a fuck about watches. They
Yeah,
cared
yeah,
about the art, right? And so
yeah.
when people talk about the cause collab, like I can see like some art fans buying that watch. I guess it's a lot of money, but it
I
reminded
would
me a lot of the
suppose,
Swatch release,
but
the Spot Mickey.
okay. But if you could pick one, the left or the right, which one would you pick? Because I would go for the right because the band looks fucking cool. Okay, the band is cool and
Yeah,
the fucking dial is cool. If you had to pick one, I mean, okay, personally, it looks like if I can use a line out of producer Michael's fucking vocab, it looks like it comes out of a cereal box. Uh, but if I had to pick one, it'd be the right one because the band is cool.
yeah. I think a lot of people in the chat like the left one. Now the left one is the collectible one. They were
Really,
yeah.
really,
There was a lot less. I think that the one on the right was like 10,000 produced, and I think the small one because
Jesus.
the one on the left is a lot smaller. I think it's something like
No,
34 or
no,
35.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my ignorance. But if I'm having my brekkie in the morning
Mhm.
and I'm shaking my cornflakes, and if the left one pops out, okay, I'll wear it for a couple of days. Really?
Yeah, but Grant, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, there's a lot of people
No,
that
I
like the
know,
left.
I know. But
It's
you know,
it's personal taste because I think all the people
no,
saying
I know.
left. I think all the people saying left. I mean, this watch is small. The one on the left is like 34, 30. It's very small. So I think that would deter people. Whereas the one on the right, like Grant's talking about, it's a much bigger watch. I think it's got 39 or 40 or something like that. So um, that in and of itself was so. Anyways, long story short, Grant, Jin fall. He gets so
Mm.
drunk and falls asleep, doesn't get the watch. I get both of them. I get both of these watches, right? I keep the one on the left unopened. I keep it like completely sealed.
Okay,
And
okay, yeah.
you know what? Jin had he'd been such a nice guy to me. He'd helped me out so many times on the streams
Uh,
that months later, he was visiting me in my town, and I brought the
mm,
Watchman and I gave it to him. I said, here's a
uh,
gift to you. Like, I mean, I'm not the biggest Swatch fan, and I know he really likes it, and he still to this day wears that watch. He loves it.
yeah,
So
well, that is a cool story, and that makes it a very valuable piece. Yes,
yeah,
it does.
yeah, I think it's just part of it for me too is just being around these streams and you meet people, you meet new friends, people that you interact with almost on a daily basis, right? Like we're here almost every night, talking watches, having a good time with the same people, and yeah,
Yeah,
for me,
yeah,
it's that's what this is about, right? It's not about
yeah, yeah,
fighting over bullshit. It's about it's about enjoying
yeah.
folks and just kind of looking at stuff that like hey, you don't have to know anything grand about watches. You really don't, right? Like you can look at a watch and say, look at
No, like,
and
you
say,
know,
and I don't like this or I do like this, right? And then go from there.
yeah, yeah, and I'll give you my reasons and that. Like, not that I'm informed like your Arch, but I have a good eye. So, like that, that's a cool, that's a cool fucking looking piece.
Yeah,
Yes.
obviously you got a diver piece. The bezel is a bit interesting. You got you can see the grooves on the bezel are a lot more pronounced than on a Submariner or on any watch that I've seen recently. It's a very pronounced bezel. So I'd be interested to see how the bezel action works on this watch. You can see that the insert's kind of gradiated all the way around. It's not just you don't just have little separation to the 15-minute mark. You have it all the way around to 60 minutes. So you have little dots on the insert, similar to the Submariner military Mil Sub 5517. You got crown guards on the piece, which honestly, I probably would have dropped the crown guards personally. What do you dislike about this piece, Grant? Just off the rip, just off looking at it, what do you dislike about it?
Uh I don't actually. I don't dislike it at all. The only thing, okay, that I would say is the strap. It's not, you know. No, I don't like the strap. But apart from that, and of course the crown, the crown sort of guard is a bit. No, that's a bit out there. It's looking like a Panerai, just a little bit. Yeah, it just yeah, but the actual sort of dial, okay, absolutely fine.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Anthony Martinez, who says I followed Archie forever, and I didn't know, or I don't know how I didn't know about this channel, but I'm glad I found it. Yeah, Anthony, we stream every night on the Archie Luxury live stream. Now he's traveling back from Tokyo today, so he wasn't gonna do a live stream tonight. I was like, fuck that. Like we could still have a hangout. We could still hang out with the boys here for a little bit. But every night, generally between I'm gonna talk Eastern time zone in North America, 6:30 Eastern. That's 11:30 p.m. in the UK, or 12:30 a.m. on the mainland of Europe. Every night, for 3 hours, we talk watches, we talk bullshit, we talk drama, we talk comedy. More than welcome. We do post the link for
Yep.
StreamYard at the top of the chat, Anthony. So if you ever want to hop on and just talk watches, or if you have watch questions, like Archie's on, everybody's welcome. It's a pretty chill environment, and yeah, we
Good
did
on
this.
you, Anthony Martinez. Good on you.
Yeah, Grant.
And
Look,
I
go ahead.
and just to interrupt,
Sure.
I did have a birthday on the 2nd of December.
Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. How old do you think I am? Just about. I'm okay, but I have a disclaimer that I've been, speaking at the schools a lot, and my voice is a bit hoarse. But how old do you think I am? Now, come on.
I'm gonna go with 49.
Oh, Jesus, you're not bad. You are not bad. And
Like,
excuse my blaspheming, but you are not bad. I'm 47 this year.
oh,
Oh, you're not bad.
ooh,
You are not bad
I,
at all.
I thought you were gonna say older, man. I thought like, nah,
You're
I thought I was insulting you, but 49, 45, that's not bad, man. That's not bad.
not
There you
bad
go.
at all.
There you go. There you go.
Uh,
We got a very generous super chat from my boy, No Biggie Sal, or Big Sal, $10. Now, before I read the super chat, I'm gonna give a shout out to Big Sal. Brought his Vacheron Overseas Rose Gold Blue Dial to the JJ's dinner. Fucking one of my favorite watches. I was telling him at the dinner, I'm like, oh, I'm hard pressed between him and Brody's watch, but I was fortunate to check out the watch. And people beside me were like, oh, can I see the watch too? And I'm like, well, you gotta ask Biggie Sal. But we got a super chat to Biggie Sal, $10. Tan the Fiking man. Tan, not having his own channel is a horological crime. Had a great time chatting with you in New York. Appreciate you, Biggie Sal. Always great to see you. Big Sal, I've been, streaming on YouTube for a number of years. I never really had an interest to do my own show. I've always enjoyed the Archie community. Archie's,
yeah,
him and I have talked watches forever.
yeah,
This is home to me, guys. Like, this always feels like home,
that's right. That's right. Yeah,
and I don't need another home, right? Like
yeah,
I've got a place that I enjoy, being here. I like the people here.
yeah,
Panels are
yeah.
open. Anybody can hop on. And the
You
answer,
know,
Grant, is nobody's wrong. And I can ask you,
yeah,
Grant,
yeah,
what do you
yeah,
think of this watch? And you're like, I fucking hate it. And you're
yeah,
not wrong, right? You're not
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah. Of
it's all
course.
subjective. It's like, yeah, I don't
You
like it,
know,
right? So you just don't like the strap. You like everything else of this but the strap, is what you're telling me.
well, no, the strap and the crown guard. Um, it's a bit sort of pronounced. I don't like the crown guard.
Do you feel? Yeah, I think the crown guards are a little. They're a little much. Like, I personally think if they put no crown guard, that would have been, to me, aesthetically
Yeah, I
probably a
mean,
little better. Because I mean, you got
yeah,
all the you got look at the bezel, right? Like, you've
mm,
got like these protruding grooves that are just very, very pronounced, right? Like, so to have then a crown guard that adds to it, it's just a little much,
yeah,
and so I
yeah,
would have axed out the
yeah,
crown guard. I would agree with you. What do you think of these, like, this is kind of the military style way of doing
yeah.
the hours. So for 1 o'clock in the afternoon is 1300, 1400. Do you like this, or do you think they could have just dropped this? I think this detail's a little much, for me.
Look, I like it because it sort of highlights, the dial, but is it sort of usable? is it utilitarian? No, of course it's not. But it just highlights the dial. But in regards to the bezel and that, well, of course, it's meant for, and that's why the strap is there, because it's meant for, you know, well, well, I'm assuming it's meant for breaking through doors and all that, and you know, beating your chest and all that sort of thing.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. This is a great comment from Angie, who says, "Are we getting tired of seeing the same designs over and over again?" The reality, Angie, is that is the Swiss watch industry, and everybody was like, I remember, I love Mr. GMT. He's a good friend of mine. I know he's listening because he's probably at work. But Mr. GMT came out when the Cubitist came out and said, it's just it's lazy, is what he said, right? And I kind of I responded to that and I said, well, I mean, nobody called the Tudor Chrono Pink lazy. Nobody called the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch White Dial lazy. But those are just different dials. Like, they created a completely different fucking watch and you're calling it lazy. So, Angie, this is a byproduct of the entire fucking industry, just copying
Yeah.
itself, So,
Yes.
frustrating, yes. Ideal, not really. I'm gonna pull up some no crown guard. I'm gonna pull up some no crown guard Submariners for you guys. Just
No
because,
problem.
yeah,
Yep.
just because for me, like, well, this is a really rough shape one. A
If I
monochrome.
can just, if
Go
I
ahead.
can just address the chat.
Of course.
No, I haven't seen the Band of Brothers there, Jimmy. See, that's a beautiful piece, because
Mhm.
just look at the patina on it. That is a very nice piece. And yes, the crown is sort of overstated, but it suits it. It suits it.
Well, interestingly enough, this is known as the Big Crown. So it's cool that you picked up on that, Grant. This is the Rolex Submariner 6538. This is the Doctor No. So this was the watch featured in the James Bond films Doctor No, and I believe it was also in Goldfinger.
Mm.
6538, very, very like this is one of the most expensive Submariners just because of its big connection to James Bond. And interesting how you picked up on the Big Crown, because there's another version. This is a 6538. I'm going to show you the 6536, which I think is arguably the better buy. I mean, 6538s could go into the $200,000 range. 6536 is around the same era. It was produced around the same time as the 6538. However, it has the small crown as well. So you don't have necessarily always the big crown versions. You have the small crown versions of the 6536, and the 6536 is realistically were, um, you know, they
Now
were.
look. That's a cool. That's also like that's a cool piece. In I mean, in anyone's, that is cool. But I prefer the 6538.
Yeah, so JDMTL, I would say that the Black Bay 54 is probably the closest you're going to get to a vintage watch in a modern piece, like full stop. You've got a lot of modern watches that do like faux patina, that do all kinds of trickery to just make
I
it.
just love that look. I just love that look about it. It's just, if you have that on your wrist, you're not a pretender, are you? I mean, just,
The
you
big
know,
difference, yeah, Grant, the big difference between this one and the previous one, even though they look almost the same, and because they're from the same era, is that the James Bond connection, the big crown, you know, pushes that other watch like into the hundreds, hundreds of thousands of dollars. 6536 was produced in significantly more numbers than the 6538 per the Nick Folks book, but you can get this, 20, 30, 40, 50, like it's going to be more affordable than the other one. And this one is, you said the patina on the dial. This dial is a radium dial. So radium, you can see radium damage on a lot of these watches just because of inherently
mm,
like, what they're
mm,
using material wise for the loom. But different type of a patina
yeah.
than you'll see on tritium, and just a really cool, like, and these are 37 mils. They're not
No, they're
they're
not a
not
big
40 mil.
watch.
Yeah, they're not big
No.
watches.
But if you could flip back to the big crown watch,
Yep.
look, it's magnificent. It is magnificent. But the only thing is, like, if you're talking sort of, you know, even not everyday wear, but that thing is going to knock on everything that you touch, and that's something that you have to be aware of. That if you got a crown that big, then it's just going to knock on everything. Like it's like having a sore leg or a sore foot. You will hit that sore foot just because it's sore on everything, subconsciously. You will hit your sore foot. It's just like having that watch. It's beautiful, and I would love to have it. But you will hit that crown subconsciously on everything, on the desk, on the this and on the that.
Foreman Colossus says patina equals damage. What's next? Mold and mildew. And we got my boy, Mr. I knew you were listening, man. GMT listens to all the shows. We expect better from Patek, my brother Dan. And that's the beauty about watch collecting and just watch enthusiasm is just the differing opinions, which I value, right? Like I value Mr. GMT's opinion, saying it's lazy. I think it's a great talking point for us to debate, to talk about like what you like. Grant's opinion on this watch is you got to be careful with it. Don't knock it about. I would agree with that. Like, any vintage watch should be super careful. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I love this watch. I've always told Danny that this is my favorite sub. I don't
Yeah,
know, Grant,
this
if
is
I'd ever.
beautiful.
I don't know if I'd ever stomach like 200 some $1,000 for one of these.
No.
Is that rust or 60 years of wrist cheese? Yes. That can definitely be interpreted as 60 years of wrist cheese. But we were talking about this Jacques Bianchi Marseille, which is in France. Just to kind of highlight, the homage, the connection, how, Aunt G was talking about, are we not entertained, guys, with all these Submariner, homages that all look
Yes.
like Submariners, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it's
But
all
that's a cool look. It's a cool it is a cool watch. But that is meant for the outdoors, and you don't give a shit about it sort of thing. Because it's a robust, sort of watch and that.
This is a great comment from Biggie Sal, who says radio mirror is another great option for a diver with no crown. So he's talking about the Panerai radio mirror. Let me pull one up here for you guys. Yeah, it's Panerai radio mirror. It's about the black seals. I like the black seals edition, and I'll show you what I mean. Share tab. So here's a couple radio mirrors. Obviously, you got the wired lugs. You got the kind of onion crown over here, but again, no crown guard. Not like your typical Luminor, which has the protruding crown guard, the very famous,
Yeah.
crown guard that
Yeah.
goes around
Yeah.
here like that. Now, not commonly known, the radio mirror, Grant, was actually the first Panerai. It was not the Luminor, the more famous one that people kind of, when you think Panerai, you think the Luminor these days. It was actually this watch that was originally used when we talk about World War II and the whole connection to Italian frogmen. It was actually the radio mirror. It was not the Luminor. Luminor didn't come out until like the 50s or something like that.
But the thing about I like, about this watch, the Panerai,
Mhm.
is very clean, isn't it? Just look at the dial. It's extremely clean. Like, yes, I mean that look. If you dress it up, that's a dress. Okay, that is a dress piece. That could be a dress piece. You know, and if I can just explain,
Mhm.
the whole thing about the dress watches. I mean, if you got your Tom Cruise on the red sort of carpet, he could wear anything, and it's classed as a dress piece.
Grant, you're not wrong, right? And a lot of people, say that. They say, the radio mirrors are great dressier watch, and I always agreed with that. I thought, and like you said, you have a pretty decent eye for this stuff, and that's actually a very accurate observation. The Radiomirs are always considered more dressy. I like to always highlight, I like to highlight the just the history of this watch because, you know, this was the first, the diver, the original, you could call Panerai. Number two,
mm.
these were not like Panerai didn't make these movements at the time. They were getting movements from Rolex. They were putting in Rolex pocket watch movements into the Panerais, and then they were then sending them out to see. So yeah, just they've always been kind of like that, right? And a Bosch company that outsourced movements, and similar to Tudor. And so, yeah, I mean, Big Sal's saying this is a good choice. I honestly, personally think that the Panerai Radiomirs are good. It's just not a popular brand, Grant. That's the problem. Is
Yeah, yeah.
right away people are like, they like the idea of Panerai, but then they're like,
Yes.
it's like I won't get my money back, or I'll lose money, and you will if you buy it retail. You absolutely will, just like you will with a Speedmaster, or you will with pretty much 99% of watches. But if you buy it on the secondary, you buy a PAM, on the secondary at a pretty good price, the likelihood of you dropping or losing money is not very likely. You probably be able to be all right. So, and I've done that firsthand with certain Luminors like the 111 and this triple, the 005, and the
But like another thing is that if you really love a watch, you have to love it forever, and you don't care about the resale. You got to love it forever, and then you get another watch if you're concerned about that. But if you love exactly the watch, you have to buy it, and you're prepared to keep it and not think about it.
honestly,
That's
Grant's a great point. I brought this up yesterday, actually. I said, the reason I bought my perpetual calendar, the specific one, the specific model I bought was, it was loosely designed after a piece unique that was, purchased in India. And, I'm Indian heritage, Indian descent. And, it meant something to me that was beyond just, investment or monetary, or am I getting a good deal? Because if I bought it for the wrong
yes,
reasons, I would itch to sell it if the market ever
yes,
turned.
yes,
Whereas if I
yes,
buy it for, hey, I bought this to also honor, where I came from, and, where am in life. I believe someone called me a trust fund baby yesterday. I did not get a trust fund. I work for my money. So that's not true. To also commemorate all the hard work I've done in my life, is why I bought that. And that's why I would never really itch to sell it, because like you said, you got to love the watch. And if you love it for the right reasons, you're not
yes,
going to itch to get rid of them. Right. Like, it's just,
yes. Yeah,
I,
you love it forever.
like Mikey, we're being honest here, right? Like, I'm just trying to be honest with each other, of saying, just like you said, I love the idea and, kind of gruesome look of some Panerais, but not the size and feel in real life. And that's a very real point, Mikey, because you've got some Panerais, Grant, that go all the way to 46 mils, just way too big for most people,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
most of the Luminors, the good ones, are at like 44 mils. The 42s, nobody fucking wants them because, they consider them small. And so, yeah, I mean,
mm,
I would say that, I would say that this is really a situation where you're having, like, different philosophies on, why you buy watches, and why, Panerais, people love the idea of them. They just can never pull the trigger or be serious about them, because they're like, fuck, I don't want to lose any money, or my friends
yeah,
don't like Panerais, or people are going to make fun of me.
yeah, yeah,
Like, people who buy Panerais can't though show their face on the stream to do an unboxing, because they feel like they're going to get shamed off this fucking stream because they fucking bought a Panerai, right? Van Lux, some Indian dude was bothering Archie on the phone the other day, man. Some Indian dude bothered me on the phone today, too. It's all good. It happens every single day. Nate, let me guess. Curly called you a trust fund. I don't even know. I think it was JB, apparently, who called me a trust fund, baby. I don't know. But I wish I had a trust fund. I mean, like Nato, I've told this on the story on the stream many times. I bought my dad his fucking Rolex. Like, that should tell you who came for fucking trust fund. Still here, buddy? Yeah, I'm still here. Archie ended up nuking the stream. Joe Bling. Archie ended up nuking the stream earlier. I don't know what the hell. He just fucking left, and then boom, dead. And look, I got to back up, and it was all good. But I thought, look, guys, we're having a. Archie said, "Oh, we're not gonna do any stream tonight." I'm like, bullshit, And Grant hopped on. Other people hopped on to help out, so we're happy with that. Mr. Grumpy. See, guys, quality wash talk about without the need to open your wallets and feed someone who doesn't need or appreciate your money. Now, Mr. Grumpy, I don't do this for money. Obviously, super chats are appreciated. They help out, support the platform that we're all on. And I think that's what's needed to keep this going. Is Archie needs to get paid. He keeps the platform on. We do our thing. You don't have to care about Archie. Honestly, half the time, Grant, I do my live streams without Archie because I like to control the show and I like to ramble on, right?
Yes.
As you can see,
but that's fine. But Archie, for all of you, not for Tan, because Tan knows Arch, but Archie is actually a very good person. No, he is. I have actually met him, and if you were to if he were to be in his as a company, he is a very good person, very respective of others, and he's very interested, in your story, whoever that may be, and that is Archie. That is Paul. Yes.
And by the way, Joe Bling, it wasn't Archie who deleted you. It was I think it was Bear actually who nuked you the other day. You always fall into the wrath of Bear for some reason, Joe Bling. I don't know why. Surdy Danny, Pam lost their credibility when they switched to cheap outsourced movements. I mean, Grant, there's a lot of scandals around Panerai. One of the biggest ones was they had a limited edition watch. It had a case back, so there was not a transparent case back. And when people opened the case back of it, the movement was completely unfinished. It was fucking raw. It was raw, bro. And it was fucking.
This is the biggest problem, isn't it, with the Panerai? Because it is in my opinion, which I'm not educated like yourself, but the Pan is one of the most the most sort of copyrighted. It is the most sort of fake washed, apart from your Rolex.
Oh, absolutely. We got a generous super chat from Aunt G, OG of the channel. $20, big super chat, says, for the great wash. I appreciate it, Aunt G. I know Archie's got to learn to work hard for his money, appreciate people that send in money. That guy Yankee Doodle is one of Archie's biggest supporters. He's been here forever.
Yankee Doodle's good.
He's been here forever, Grant. And Archie never gives him the time of day. And I'm just like, man, do you not understand customer service? Do you not get it? Obviously these punters are not my customers. They're people that are, nice enough to listen to me ramble on for fucking hours. But, for him, these are customers, and I don't get it. Why the fuck does, Archie not give Yankee Doodle the time? So, Grant, whenever Yankee Doodle super chats, even if it's $2, I will spend 20 minutes answering his shit because I feel
I'm hearing you, brother. I am hearing you. Excuse my hoarse voice. I'm sorry.
Joe Bling. Joe Bling. By the way, guys, Joe Bling is always a bit of an adversary with Bear in the chat. And it's always funny because Bear will let Joe Bling hang around for a little bit, and then one day
I like the Bear. We
love the Bear. We love the Bear. But Joe Bling, this is the funny thing. You guys have never I noticed this because I've seen it for a while, but for those that don't know, Joe Bling always kind of fucking goes after Bear, and sometimes Bear lets